I've got a question. What would the panel do to improve local democracy? And what does the panel think about the UK lobbying law, the UK lobbying, UK transparency of lobbying, non-party political campaigning? It's a rather unwieldy title, as you've just gathered. It's also known as the Gagging Law. I would be quite interested to know how many people know about this actually. Has anybody heard of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody?
Yeah, just a few.
Just a few. Anybody who hasn't? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About 30% of the audience, it looks like. Okay, so over to the panel now.
I think this is the main ground on which the Green Party are standing to win in High Barnet. The democratic deficit in Barnet is so blatant and so shocking and so horrific that we think it's high time that we got rid of the current regime and put someone else in who understands democracy. The Green Party has never taken corporate money, and therefore we appear small and sometimes a little less polished than the others, but we know that taking corporate money warps the way you think, and it causes you to start being run on the on lines of, you know, balancing the books and financial considerations. But we think we understand what local government is for. It's about the people. It's about allowing us to flourish. And in High Barnet, we stand the best chance of getting the Tories out. And when we go into the council, we will be there as your eyes and ears. We will be there in order to seek to minimise the extent to which things are hidden, lies are told, and consultations go unremarked and no notice is being taken. I think we should open the council up to you to come in and talk to us, to talk to each other, and we will listen. The pledges we have made that are available on the piece of paper here are our hopes and the things we care about. But for the most part, we would be there to represent you, to put the awkward questions you want us to ask, and to try and to begin to restore democracy to a system that is not conducive to it. But we will do our level best, and we are a heck of a lot better than the rest of them. And I urge you to pass that message on.
Thank you. Yeah, you next.
Until a couple of years ago, I personally never bothered to read many council documents, and I never went to a council meeting, a committee meeting. But since I'm involved in fighting for the rights of disabled people in Barnet, which they don't have any really at the moment, I've been very shocked by what I see happening and how the great lack of transparency, and I can see no example of genuine democracy, of a willing to engage with people in Barnet at all, and I think it's horrifying. And as an example of this, we've been campaigning to bring 6 services that have been outsourced to a local authority training company, I won't go into all the details now, called Your Choice Barnet. And in May last year, we attended the last public board meeting of Your Choice Barnet. Your Choice Barnet is a private company. Its sole shareholder is the London Borough of Barnet. So, an interesting private company, shall we say. And now there is no way, or extremely difficult for members of the public to get any kind of information, residents of Barnet, about a company that is solely owned by the London Borough of Barnet. And this is just a small example of what is going on. And when you attend the committee meetings, when you try and write questions to get them to explain themselves, the waffle and the convoluted answers you get and being led round the houses, that you never, ever, ever get a genuinely clear, acceptable answer to the questions you raise. And whatever you do, you know, unfortunately, that in the end, the likelihood of anything changing or anybody listening to you is nil. And I find that very, very shocking and totally unacceptable. Whatever party is in power, this is not the way to run local government. And the gagging law, similarly, on a national level, is very, very worrying. So I'm a member of BAPS. BAPS doesn't have much money, but I don't think it has to do.
What is that?
BAPS, the Barnet Alliance for Public Services. So we're fighting to restore some semblance of public services in Barnet, both for the residents and the users of those services and for the people who work for Barnet. And I suppose, I don't know the law well enough to say if this is the case, but I imagine that 2 months before an election, we will have to be very careful about how we act.
Yeah.
So we are a lobbying group, we are a group of concerned residents who are very much opposed to what is happening in Barnet. We're not allied to any particular political party, and a lobbying group, and even as also CADDSS as well, which is fighting the social services cuts. We have a very specific agenda. No, we're not denying what our agenda is, and we make it quite clear to everybody. But we could, if we were to get into trouble, we could, I presume, it's a criminal offence if you disobey exactly. I'm sure there'd be harsh fines. BAPS doesn't have any money. CADDSS has absolutely zero money. So, you know, but what is our situation now? Because obviously, as you're coming towards local elections, you want to raise the local issues that are concerning you, but are we legitimately able to do that now? This is really, really worrying, because this affects the whole of Britain. And we like to think of ourselves as a democracy, but should this really be happening in a genuinely democratic country?
Well, I'm not a political animal, and I'm quite proudly say that. I don't support one party over any other party. I look at every issue and make up my mind whether to vote in favour or against. And it's the same for councillors. I don't vote for any particular party. I look at the individuals. Same for MPs. And as the secretary of our local residents association, I very proudly proclaim that we're totally apolitical. Our constitution tells us that we must be. On the other hand, I do certainly recognise that there's major problems with our political system. And I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about the council meeting discussing the village green. The voting went down totally political lines. And so many council meetings that I've been to involved, because I'm heavily involved in the Pink and Way Alliance, all the meetings that I go to in Haringey, in Barnet, in Enfield, it's the same thing. It happens every single time when it comes to a vote. The councillors vote either with their own party, with Labour or Tory or Lib Dem. They don't seem to be capable of making up their own mind. There was a glimmer of hope at the Village Green hearing when one of the Tory councillors, she proudly proclaimed during the discussion that she was going to vote in our favour, and that was the Tory. Yet when it came to the vote and she saw how all our other Tories were voting, she actually abstained. So, what I'm trying to say is, I firmly welcome local participation in all things, because the councils are there to run our services and make sure our streets are kept clean, that our police services are running efficiently, etc., etc. But I do get very frustrated at the lack of participation by my own members in decisions. We do most of our correspondence through emails, we send out on virtually every issue that we come across. We send out emails. It goes to around about 180 people, 180 families living in this area. And I always ask, what is your opinion? Of those 180 emails that go out, I might perhaps get, if I'm lucky, 30, 40 responses. Yeah, all the others, they're still paying their subscriptions each year. Yeah, they never bother to actually tell me what their opinions are. And I certainly don't want, as the Secretary of the Residents Association, to actually be doing something which is against what my members are telling me to do. Yeah, if they don't tell me what they want me to do, it leaves me in a bit of a difficult position. And I think we all know that it's the same when it comes to local elections. The percentage of people who actually bother to go out and vote later this year, for example. I think we'd be very fortunate if we get 25% of the electorate come out to vote in a local election. Perhaps Alan can help me there. I'm not sure the exact, but I know it's pretty low.
It varies from all to all. It can be 40%.
Yeah, well, if it's
not as high as it should be.
No, I mean, if it's 40%, that would be fantastic. But some of the statistics I've read, it's much lower than that. But so all of us here are interested in what goes on in our local neighbourhood. That's why we're sitting here and discussing things. It's very sad that there's only what, maybe 40 of us here out of an area that there's probably 10,000 people living here.
Well, I mean, you know, when answering the question, I think I do feel compelled to say that, you know, not all councillors are the same. You know, people often say, oh, councillors, you know, they're not listening. I mean, you know, it is unfortunate the way the, you know, current administration in Barnet, which happens to be Tory, have been running the council. Now, I've been at many constitution committees, and their approach, rather than trying to encourage participation and get more people involved, is precisely the opposite. They're looking at, you know, can they cut the amount of time that, you know, public speakers get at meetings. You know, the change they made, you know, a couple of years ago about restricting the issues that could be raised at area forums have all had the effect of making it even harder for people to participate in council meetings. Now, luckily, you know, they did, in the end, we and, you know, other people at campaign persuaded them to change their mind on the area forums, and now when you go to an area forum, you can raise, just as you can tonight, you can raise any issues. And I went to the last Finchley and Golders Green one in Cricklewood at the Crown Hotel, and it was absolutely packed because there were lots of issues that people wanted to talk about. People wanted to talk about stuff in the railway cottages, people wanted to talk about 20-mile-an-hour zones. You know, when there are issues that people are interested in, they will come along, and we have to try and make it as easy for people to participate as possible. As we were talking about local elections, the Labour group have got some pledges for local elections about opening up the full council meetings. So we will allow members of the public to speak at full council meetings. So why should it be that only councillors can actually question members of the cabinet at council meetings? So we think it's right that there should be time set aside for anybody to come along and actually ask questions directly of the councillors who are making decisions. And, you know, as well as that, we don't want to put some of the Lucy out of business, but we are planning to webcast all the meetings. So actually, I mean, people videoing meetings have been doing, I think, a very good service, because it's opened up council meetings and people can actually see what's going on, and lots of people who don't have time to come along can actually, you know, actually watch and see when an issue they're interested in being talked about. I think that's actually very interesting. So yeah, I just think local democracy is important, and it is within our, you know, our power to do things about it. Not all councillors are the same, and, you know, personally, I'm, you know, committed to try and improve it.